Dylan Raiola. Like I said, to me, I'm not saying I wasn't wowed, but I wasn't surprised. He was who I thought he was. I think he's got excellent touch. I'm going to use a pitching term here, but he changes speeds well, in my opinion.
The let-up pitch?
Well, it's just like he knows when it's time to, and he knows when it's time to set
a couple
off.
Screens he threw.
And I'll tell you, that's the –
look good.
Forget about – let's pretend that, Dylan loses the ability to throw the deep ball. His ability to throw screen passes, and maybe it's just because we've had such a low bar to clear for a long time. But his ability to throw those screen passes on time, on target, with the right amount of touch is going to make a huge difference in this offense by itself. I mean, just imagine throughout the years if we would have been able to throw those smoke screens or those quick outs, just those real short, instantaneous passes, and throw it with any kind of accuracy. To where the receiver is not catching the ball with his momentum going the wrong way, where he's not having to turn his body. There was the one play he had. I'm trying to remember who he threw it to. It was to Bonner. It was to Bonner.
Oh,
it was either in the red zone or very close to the red zone, heading to the north, where it's one of those classic screens. You allow the pass rush to get up, and he just couple shuffle steps back, pops it over. Nice gain.
It's a 4-part process. I always talk about the screen. It's a 4-part process. So the offensive line's got to block enough to where the guys aren't just coming free, but they've also got to release and they got to get out, right? It's a huge part. The running back is the one that never gets talked about enough. The timing to make it either look like you're blocking or that you're not quite going out, that's incredibly important. It's hard to do. It's a rare team that does it. Green Bay's always been good at it. Eagles, hell, the Saints are a great screening team. The third part of it, you don't talk about as much, is it's not necessarily the quarterback having to try to get back fast, whether it is in the shotgun or from center. It's about him taking his time and making it like every other play.
Selling it.
Every other play that you run. So whether it is a quick out you're going to throw or it's going to be a handoff or whatever, it's got to look exactly the same. So if you can do that, you're great. And the third part, obviously, as you mentioned, is having the touch, getting it over the defensive lineman who's coming at you or whoever's rushing you, and being able to get it to the running back, sometimes a wide receiver, who is actually then turning upfield quickly.
Right.
You can do all 4 of those things well. It's almost impossible to stop unless a defensive lineman sees it early and can get out there.
And gets the read.
But majority of the time they don't.
But if you hit that timing, that's why that screen pass is such a dangerous play.
Yeah.
But it all stems back to how the quarterback is able to execute it. Again, you can do the first 3 things, but if you lowball the pass or if maybe you throw it a little too high and it just throws off the timing of the play, everything gets blown up. I don't think, and I looked back and watched each and every one of his plays again this morning, I don't think he misfired. And when I say misfire, it's not just necessarily incompletion, but just putting the ball where it needed to be.
He had to throw to the end zone, the north end zone. He had to throw there that he kind of overthrew it, unless, and I don't know what shoulder it was supposed to be over, 11 turned one way and then turned back.
Right.
It looked like he should have thrown it to the outside. He threw it to the inside. Other than that, he had a couple throwaways because of pressure and didn't have anybody open. There was another one where he just kind of missed, but I'm not sure if the wide receiver was going. And then, of course, the interception, that's one where, again, you never know. We don't ever know if he's supposed to sit down or if he's supposed to run through it. We don't know. They have to tell us that. And they didn't say it in the press conference. I'm assuming that he missed through it. He missed through it behind him, but I don't know. Maybe he was supposed to stop.
They hit up high up his shoulder pad. And
that's why you never know. Is it a zone? Are you supposed to sit down? Is it man? He's supposed to run through it. So you have to be careful with that. But
he
only had a couple.
I don't think he misfired on a screen pass.
Oh, no, definitely not. No, he was smooth on that. He's a technician. Like, he's not perfect.
No.
He still throws a little 3/4. Because of the 3/4,
I was going to ask you about that.
He's still a 3/4 guy, and sometimes when you're a 3/4 guy, you're not going to get balls to be able to drop over the secondary. It's really hard to do. Harburg actually is starting to get his stuff over the top, which is nice. But he also has the ability, I'm talking about Raiola, to be able to make throws into windows because he gets the ball out the way he does.
Mm-hmm.
It's out so quick. The one he threw to Bullock, going across the middle, it seems pretty simple, but the linebacker is dropping. The safety's coming up. If that throw is a half a second late, or if it's say a yard inside, it's probably picked.
Mm-hmm.
Instead, he hits Bullock right in stride. He gains another couple yards. That's a special throw.
That was my favorite throw of the day. By far, that was my favorite throw of the day. Because when I watched it live, when I say live, when I watched the game on tape, but when I saw it for the very first time, my first reaction was, oh, he took a big chance there.
Yeah.
That was, I don't know.
I
don't know if I like that decision. But then you saw it again, and then I went back and watched it again from the regular view.
Yeah.
And I saw it a handful of times, and I went back and I looked at it over and over and over and over again. It's like, that is a big time throw.
Well, Rule said it. If he sees it, he throws it.
Right.
A lot of guys may see it and then they think for a little while, for a count. He sees it, he throws it.
And then there was another one. They were going, I think it was second quarter. They were going to the south, and they're backed up inside the 5-yard line. And I think it was another one to Bullock.
I don't know. Yep,
where
it's like a 21-yard gain or something.
Yeah, where he has to drop it in between two guys on the sideline. You got the deep safety, you got the linebacker, and there's this gap of about 10 yards in between coverage where you got to drop it in near the sideline. And while it was a high throw, and Bullock had to make a nice catch, that's the only place you can put that ball.
Yep.
And he managed to put it there on time, on target. So
let's not forget, one of the best throws of the day was Daniel Kaline. So you're in the 4-minute offense, 2-minute offense. They got the ball 4 minutes. He makes the throw to Jalen Lloyd. That throw to Jalen Lloyd is one, he got rid of it early. Matter of fact, Jalen Lloyd comes around late, gets his hands up late, makes a great catch, but that's a perfect throw. That throw is a throw that in the NFL, if you are a quarterback and you can't make that throw, you're just not going to make it in the league, because that throw has to be made, especially if a team's in quarters, you have to make it. If it's in man, you have to be able to make it. Man free, got to be able to get that, manipulate, first of all, that safety and figure out, you have to be able to make that throw. And Daniel Kaline made that throw perfectly. It was as good as anybody, again, that we've seen in years here at Nebraska make that throw.
The thing that concerned me with Kaline, he did miss some easy.
He did. And that's what he did watching in high school. That's what I watched him in high school. I watched him in high school, and the best he's going to be at 7-on-7. I mean, he is a great 7-on-7 quarterback. You watch him in practice and stuff, but there are times at games where he'll let it speed himself. It'll speed him up. And that's something you grow into, I think.
You mentioned Harburg, and the technique's a little bit better now.
I thought so.
Than it was. He still throws a great deep ball.
Yep, that's what he always did well, because you don't have to drop the ball in between coverage. You can just get it up and it comes down. To get it up and get it down quickly, you've got to come over the top.
There was a play where he had the rush, and this might have been one of those plays that Matt Rule was talking about where in a real game it might have been a sack. Of course, they weren't hitting the quarterback.
Yeah.
But the rush is caving in on him, and he just makes a quick little step and a half, little shuffle step forward and hits Fedoni over the middle.
Yep.
On a little crosser, just trying to get the ball away. That to me was one of his better throws. I don't know if he makes that type of a play last year.
And he may not. He may have waited. Well, which games? Because he was two different quarterbacks.
Yeah.
Early on, he had complete confidence and no fear. And then as the season went on, you saw it. You started thinking more and worried about making throws because of turnovers. So if it was early in the season, he probably makes it. Late in the season, he doesn't make it for sure.
So I was a little skeptical of the notion that he could be the number 2 guy this year.
Harburg?
He showed enough to me that I think if the coaches, if you injected them with the truth serum, they would say, we would prefer Harburg's good enough to be our 2. And we can sit Danny for the season.
Well, you can win with him, especially knowing that you can 6 out of the first 7 games, right? You're playing teams that you certainly have better talent than now.
Yes.
Right? For sure, 6 out of the 7. So you can win games with him running, him throwing the deep ball, running the ball, and playing good defense. There's going to be games, and we've seen this over the course of the last 16 years, there's going to be games where a quarterback's got to win a game for you.
Yeah. And
too many times for Nebraska, the quarterback's not won a game. Or the quarterback has done what he needed to do, and the defense couldn't get a stop.
Right.
So they all got to work together in tandem. Here's a screen, for example. I was going to pull him back to the screen. So this is what we were talking about earlier. This is Dylan Raiola in the first quarter still, and they're heading to the North Stadium. And it's a simple play. It looks so easy, right? It's simple. But that play That hasn't been made since Bill Callahan was
No,
here.
it hasn't.
It has not been made. And it's so simple. I get the snap. I look one way. I come back, drop it off, give it to the running back where he's starting to run again. Look, he looked off to the right.
He looks
comes
right
back,
and then comes back.
The tackle gets out. Everybody gets out right. Now, the tackles probably should have got a little quicker. He makes that block. Maybe it's longer. But that was run like it's supposed to be run.
But even in a situation like that where the tackle doesn't quite make the block he is supposed to or is in the place to make it, that's still a 7. I don't remember.
It was a 5 yard. It was a 5 yard gain.
It was a 5 yard gain,
and it should have been a little better. But
and that's one area where you're going to offset any issues you might have early on with the run game. If we have overall concerns with the run game, if it's not as good as we expect it to be, those are long handoffs.
Yeah,
those are ways you can still get yardage. Yeah, it's going to count as passing yards. But you're right, Michael. We have not seen enough of that in the last few years. And how much would just having that, I hate to call it a wrinkle, but that's kind of what it is with the modern Nebraska offense. Yeah. To have that wrinkle in the offense would have been a game changer in games like Maryland, like Iowa, where you needed those yards in a key spot.
How many games last year did they have 2nd and 11 or 3rd and 10? So many times. Well, that's a 5 yard thing. All of a sudden it's 2nd and 5 or 3rd and 5. So the next play is the throw we were talking about earlier. So he makes the screen, does perfectly in that. Then he comes back and he's got to throw a skinny post on time, right when he has to. That's a perfect throw. Again, a little bit late, the safety catches it. A little bit over, the cornerback gets
the bullet catch.
Instead, he threw it right where it needed to be and got rid of it. Then they're eventually going to get to the end zone. And when they get to the end zone one, you see it. He saw it right away. He let it go. No thinking, no worrying. Just, I got an arm to make this throw. I know I can make the throw. I'm going to trust my wide receiver to make the play.
And Bullock had a nice catch.
He did. He had a good game.
He had a really good game. I believe he was the one that also caught the one on the sideline I was describing earlier.
Yeah. I think so they are probably, everybody healthy. They're probably 7 guys who I'd feel comfortable lining up at wide receiver. 7 guys. I don't know the last time they had 7 guys. So I think Banks and Nair are givens.
Banks and Nair.
Jalen Lloyd is a given, right? I think Bullock fits into that category, right? I think Barney fits in that category. I think that Smith, but I call him Smith Marset. Garcia Castaneda is good. Iowa guy. Just thinking about him the other day.
But IGC,
yeah. So he's gonna fit into that category.
And then Coleman.
And then Coleman, Malachi Coleman.
There's 7.
So what I had was deuces. So the 2 new transfers, the 2 returning from last year, Barney, and then the guy I really like, who's not even here yet, is Quinn Clark. I think Quinn Clark is a difference maker. The kid from Wyoming. He's 6'5". He can run. He's perfect in this system to be a backup to any of the other guys. And then we didn't even mention, out of all of that, the kid from Bellevue West had 3 or 4 catches 2 days ago. What's it? Deshaun? Not Deshaun. It's Hall.
Oh yeah.
He had 2 or 3 catches. Matter of fact, the first 2, 3 third down ones they threw to him, and it wasn't complete. He had catches too. And then of course Demetrius Bell was playing well and got hurt. There's not been something like this where we could just name that many guys who you feel comfortable in over a decade or about a decade.
And we haven't mentioned any of the tight ends yet or Janiron Bonner.
Yeah, and Bonner's probably a wide receiver based off of what he did on Saturday.
Bonner could be a lot of fun this year because you got a fullback, a tight end, and a wide receiver in one body. You could put him at 3 different spots.
And he does, right? They said, what did Coach say? He thought he could be a fullback of the NFL. He can obviously be an H-back, right? Because that's part fullback. And he can be a displaced tight end, which is almost a wide receiver. So, and then how about some of the backup tight ends? Everybody was making plays. It helps when a quarterback throws the ball to the guy in the right spot.
It sure does.
Makes it a lot easier.